So I guess we are here in no small capacity to talk about this unveiling of the ANC's Tombstone. So you are in the enviable position, I'd say, of not having to vote for an ANC president this time out and having to apologize in 5 years for having done so. And you've said you've never lost a conference, right?
Yeah.
What makes this electoral conference for the ANC so different from the one in 2007, which was a complete watershed in this country's history?
Well, I don't think it will be a watershed moment for the ANC, because it's a continuation of the road which started in Polokwane. And therefore, the crooks are going to choose which one is the better crook to lead the mafias going forward. So they are not choosing a president, they are choosing a don of the mafia. So we must know the difference. So it's not a turning point. Nothing is going to come out of it. They said radical economic transformation. In their policy conference, they came with nothing close to radical economic transformation. So I don't know what is the excitement about. There's really nothing which is going to happen. The watershed moment, not for the ANC, for the country, is 2019, when a country will have an opportunity to choose a different government, and that possibility exists. If you look at how much the ANC got in the previous elections in 2016, 54% or anything like that, it's clearly on its way out, and it doesn't matter what they do in the conference in December.
Okay, well that seems to be a lot of the sort of the consensus opinion is that the ANC is going to be voted out in 2019. But you've just said that the voter needs to exercise this power, and the voter still seems to, no small part, be addicted to the African National Congress. Perhaps it's because the EFF doesn't have something to sell. Is there something materially wrong in a saturated political market with the message that you're delivering, particularly in rural areas?
No, the EFF has got something to sell. The problem is that our people do not trust new ideas. Our people respond more to ideas that have been there for quite some time. And I always give some small example that if there is a new product of washing clothes, and you go and buy that product, and then you come with it at home, your grandmother or your mother is going to fight with you big time. I told you to buy Omo, not this thing. Mama, this one is much better. Country. Even before they test the strength of that product, already they reject it outrightly. So the EFF survival is going to depend on its staying power. If it stays for long, if it handles its internal matters properly and to the satisfaction of the voter, and EFF gradually handles some municipalities, some wards where they've won properly, including the universities. They've just won VETs now. The voter is looking at what are they doing at VETs? Can they be trusted? Once they do that, they will gradually gain the trust of our people. So our people are not that gullible that there is a new color now, let's go for it. No, they want to see, does this have a staying power? And the EFF does have the staying power.
Okay, but you've been sort of uncharacteristically quiet this year for a party that has been sort of born on a whole bunch of noise. We know that you've dubbed this year the Year of the Branch. What does that mean? Maybe you could explain it to the audience a little bit. And given the slow pace of your growth, why not concentrate on urban or peri-urban areas? Why spread the sort of munificence across the entire country when perhaps you should be concentrating on urban areas where you guys have name recognition?
I have been quiet deliberately because the ANC is eating itself. And every time I speak, I unite them. So I said, let me stay away so that they can finish each other. So it's a deliberate move.
Okay.
Right?
Deliberate strategy.
Right? So you see me and Rupert and White Monopoly Capital, we're fighting and all that. Hey, white people, this, black people, this. We're all fighting. We're fighting for all sorts of things. But if aliens were to come here, We'll hold hands together and fight the aliens. That's what I am to the ANC. So I just keep quiet and then allow them to finish each other. Once they are done, I come out and take over the ground, because there's no point of uniting the ANC. So politics are like that. Time and space is very important in politics. So we have concentrated on the year of the branch, because we don't want to take power through a back door. If we take power through a back door with such radical policies, the white monopoly capital media will mobilize the same people who voted for us against us. Because our people would have voted for us not because of our ideas. They would have voted for us because they were simply looking for an alternative. They were angry with their current government. And then when they looked at this side, they just decided to make us a rebound. We don't want to be a rebound. We want to be the real boyfriend or husband, for that matter. So how do you become a real boyfriend or husband or real wife or real girlfriend? Is by going to the ground and make people aware of your ideas. They must love you for who you are, not what you appear to be. That's why it is the year of the branch. We need to build the branches. We need to go to the rural areas. In the rural areas, the ANC is not contested. When you talk politics, they think that is a synonym for ANC. They even think election means ANC. That's why when they are angry with the ANC, they ban the tents of the IEC. Because the ANC is not contested there, so everything else, politics, is ANC. So we ought to do away with that idea. I've been in the ANC, and I've seen the PAC, how it failed to defeat the ANC, and I've seen many others how they failed to defeat the ANC. The failure to defeat the ANC was as a result of the inability to grow the organization and reach all corners of the country. So what I say to the EFF campaigners now in Metsimaholo is that when you do door to door, you must even go to the people who are wearing the ANC t-shirts. Why? Because even if they don't vote for us, they must know there is an alternative called the EFF. They shouldn't say we voted for the ANC because there is no any other party. We only know of the ANC. They must know about us, but still don't vote for us. But they must know that they've got a choice. They've just decided to vote the ANC. So that's what we're busy with. Let the people know an animal called the EFF. And we're succeeding in doing that. The EFF is becoming a household name. Everybody else is now talking about the EFF. Whether negative or positive, it's immaterial. First, introduce your brand. Let people know this brand called the EFF.
So let's just spend a little bit of time with white monopoly capital. Towards the end of 2015, I believe, you said that you were going to start a campaign of stepping up pressure on the banks.
Yeah.
Stepping up pressure on the big companies, the untransformed big companies in this country. With the Gupta leaks, we've done a great job of patting ourselves on the back on all of this stuff, but I'm not sure we've done a good enough job linking for the average person in this country what corruption actually means. That when you steal from the government, you're actually stealing from people's plates. We haven't explained this process well enough, right? At the same time, you have political parties that seem, or opposition parties that seem very meek in the face of these big corporates. Haven't put the pressure on them that we would expect. In fact, if anyone has a scalp, it's the Democratic Alliance with Bell Pottinger. Shouldn't the EFF be stepping up? Shouldn't you be holding to that promise about going after ABSA and the other banks?
My brother, in this country, in every big company, there's a huge debate taking on. How do we transform? How do we empower our people? Because of the EFF. There is no company in South Africa which is not talking about this. They may not be doing it, but majority of these companies are now beginning to talk. The ANC doesn't talk about corruption because they are doing it. The DA doesn't talk about transformation because it's benefiting them when the industry remains untransformed. We speak about both. There's every black person in this country, in their workplaces, including the unemployed people, when they are confronted with difficult situation, they are like, maybe we must call the EFF to come and attend to this management. Everywhere. When they are not getting promotions, When white young people with less qualifications are imposed on them, the first thing they say from their mouth is, EFF spoke about these things long before, and we see them happening now. So we've given our people the weapon to use at their workplaces. So we don't have to be there ourselves. Those workers who are there, they are the EFF themselves. They are now fighting for themselves. Today, we're seeing a lot of things being exposed because the EFF has given these people a voice. They've got the voice. So don't tell me about public relation Bell Pottinger. I'm talking real stuff, man. Our people have gained serious confidence. Ask any black person in corporate here in Sandton when you live here. They will never articulate and not finish the articulation without praising the EFF on how it has brought about confidence in them. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange here, we went into a meeting with them. The company, they said to us, we've started gradually to introduce offering our workers the shares in our company, in line with what you have asked us to do. And there is a chap in this company who speaks a lot here. He's the one who stood up in the meeting of the workers and said, we are happy you are beginning to implement the memorandum of the EFF because now we are receiving something from the company we work so hard for. So all of that, it's happening. And because we are doing it genuinely, not for public relations, we don't care whether it gets reported or not. As long as the conditions are changing for our people, we are happy with that. We've done that. We've put too much pressure in this country. We continue to put too much pressure in this country. We didn't go to ABSA for simple reason. Because Gupta Stooges hijacked our plan and went to ABSA. And then what must happen? I must march behind Atul. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. I announced ABSA. There is no one who said to me, announce ABSA here. I announced ABSA on my own. I will implement it as and when I want to do it. Not through anyone's pressure. I can't get a pressure from Ketama. I can't get pressure from Jimmy Mani. No. We announce programs of the EFF, and when opportunists hijack them, we pull out. You know, we announced at the Israeli embassy that when those racists go to march, we are going to counter them as the EFF. When I arrive at home, boom, email from Kletam. No, we want to join you on that day of the march. Hey, man, can't you go and march alone? Why do you want the EFF?
So if 6 people march ahead of you, you won't do it?
He must go and march alone. I never write him a letter to ask him to march with him. So I'm not going to be hijacked by opportunists. You see, you are not going to use the Gupta's corruption to justify an attack on white monopoly capital. They are all the same. They are parasitic. They are all capitalists. They steal from our people. So I don't care about Guptas. In the same way, I don't care about white monopoly capital. And white people must start moving away from a concept of white monopoly capital. When we say white monopoly capital, we're not saying white people. But, you know, they've become so fragile that when you attack white monopoly capital, they think you are attacking them. They should be joining, especially white women who were excluded by these white Afrikaner males from owning the means of production. The white women must join the EFF and say, yes, we too were excluded by our own husbands. We want to own the land. We want to own the industries. That's what we are talking about. But once you say white, hey, they are very sensitive.
Next steps.
So we don't want that. Stop being sensitive. We are a democratic country. And this democracy can only work if there is a robust debate, which sometimes makes us uncomfortable. That's democracy for you.
That clock is being really cruel. And I do want to open it up to the floor for some quick questions. That will be questions and quick. But I want to jump from Sandton to Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
I'm totally confused. You loved Bob back when you were in the ANC Youth League. Then you fell out with Bob. Now you sort of are happy that he's gone. Explain to me the whole process, because I
love Bob. There's never been a moment where I don't say I love Muga. I don't love Muga. I love you.
But you advocated for his removal.
But when I love you, it doesn't mean I can't criticize you. My wife is my biggest critic person. All the time, and when I finish to speak, she comes on top of me. I'm like, are you sent by Zuma or something?
We share that experience.
She does that because she wants good out of me. So our love for Uncle Bob didn't diminish. We love him. And that's why we said, don't return Munangangwa, don't return back the land to the settlers. All we said to Uncle Bob was, a good dancer knows when to leave a dance floor. It doesn't mean you don't know how to dance. So you must ask these black people who are sitting next to you. In the weddings there, in the townships and parties, we open something called a circle. And then a good dancer gets into the circle and he dances. It doesn't matter how good that person is. If he takes long, we drag him. But he remains a good dancer. So by removing him from the circle doesn't mean he's not a good dancer. So it's only those who suffer from a mind of a rat who think that when you love a person, you can't criticize that person. No. The ones we love, we criticize the most. I said to President Mugabe, he must leave, not now. And some journalist was saying to me, you are mantashing. I said this in March. And then I was insulted by ZANU-PF. They called me all sorts of names. And I didn't respond back. I said to them, one day you will agree with me. Like I always do here in South Africa. I give you a scenario of what's going to happen. And then when it happens, you are like, this guy is a prophet. It's scenario. You can see what will be the result. So I've seen it long before that President Mugabe is going to be humiliated if he doesn't leave. And then look at what happened. He had to know it's time to go. And the problem is not his wife. The blaming of the wife fits directly into narrative of patriarchal society. That for every wrong thing we blame women. His wife did not do anything wrong. He stayed forever. Not because that wife said he must stay forever. He thought he was a mini god of Zimbabwe in his own right without that wife. And that's what we do for our partners. If my wife wants to stay in this company which is exploitative, she was working for an exploitative company, I said to her, you must leave. She says, no, I like it here. I'm like, oh yeah, you can stay, baby, it's fine, it's okay. We support each other like that as partners. She found herself in that situation. But she has never claimed to be a politician. She has never claimed to be a revolutionary. A revolutionary is Mugabe. He had to know, even if she wanted him to stay forever, as a revolutionary, he had to know himself what is wrong and right and advise her that, baby, it's time to go.
Very, very quickly. The EFF has described the coup as progressive and sort of as a genius move, which I suppose it actually was. It was very brilliantly executed. Don't you think a coup sets a terrible precedent in Southern Africa?
Well, the Zimbabweans have tried everything possible. You know, there are certain things we don't wish for ourselves, but we find ourselves in that, you know, a compromised position. That's why we kept on begging them. We don't want a drop of blood. We don't want a drop of blood. Let everyone cooperate. It's an unscripted type of a coup. I think those who come after us, students of politics, will have to really write about that and explain what happened and how can it be done like that without a drop of blood. So we want to thank them for that. We may not agree with the method they used, but those people were in a terrible situation where a man fires people like it's happening here in South Africa without any reason. An abuse of power. It cannot be tolerated. You are forcing the army to act in a manner they did in Zimbabwe. That's why I'm saying here in South Africa it will not happen. Because here we go to election every 5 years. And then we choose every president we want. Even if Zuma wants to come back now, it will not happen.
Are we going to take him an election in 2019?
No, if he wants to stand, we're going to take him to court and disqualify him. He can't run for the third term. He can do that thing in his shack called the ANC. Not in South Africa. No, here we're not going to allow that nonsense. We'll take him to court, and when he defies the court, he will be charged and arrested.
I'm going to open the floor very quickly. Over there.
Over here.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for coming, Julius Malema. My name is Mikey from Umuzi. I just want to ask you a question, very simple for the youth of South Africa. What is that thing that you want to tell people out there, especially the youth of South Africa? As I said, that we are here unemployed, we're trying to go to schools, we don't have funds. If the EFF goes into power, what is that thing that you want to tell the youth that this will happen for them for change?
Well, we need to open universities for our students. We will make resources available. There's plenty of resources in South Africa. And those resources are being taken out of our country through illicit financial flows and tax avoidance. All of that needs to be arrested, and we rechannel the resources to important things like education. We need to minimize, especially the spending on politicians. A lot of money gets spent on politicians. They've got houses in Pretoria, houses in Cape Town, they fly all types of things, they've got all types of benefits. You need to cut those things out. I don't understand why we buy cars for politicians and not buy cars for workers. Because workers go and get financed by the banks. Politicians are earning salaries and huge salaries. Let them go and queue in the banks there and apply for the financing of their cars. Let them pay for their cars. And then if they do our job, we'll see how we pay them back for those jobs. We pay kilometers, whatever the case might be. So it cannot be that some money must be made available for these special people. There is enough money. We need to fight unemployment in South Africa by bringing confidence in the investors. There is a lot of liquidity in our banks. The people with money, they are not investing in industrialization, which will lead into jobs, because they don't have confidence in our democracy. They don't have confidence that tomorrow their investments will be safe. We ought to guarantee them through how we conduct ourselves, by combating corruption, by arresting those who are not law-abiding, by making sure that the institutions of the state are functional. By doing all of those things, we'll then build investor confidence. Once industrialization happens, once liquidity gets invested in South Africa, we get our people jobs. So once we address that, we're made. And our people, especially the youth, you must never say that you have been to school and there are no jobs, therefore education is useless. No. You are not getting education because you want to be a teacher or an engineer or anything of that sort. You are just expanding your knowledge and your understanding. Through those qualifications, you can outmaneuver every situation. Even if there may not be jobs in your field, but an educated person will always rise above. So we must emphasize education, and education at all costs. We must go to school. I realize the importance of going to school after ANC, by the way. Because no one told us to go to school in the ANC. We drank alcohol with very old people. We had all types of access to money with very old people who never said to us, go to school. They created an impression that, you know, what matters is these nice things and money. Then you are sorted. I didn't even have a policy when I was in the ANC, because we were told when you die, the ANC will bury you. So that zombified us. We're ANC zombies. And then only became liberated after that. It looks like we have to do right things here. Because without education, you now rely on certain individuals. And therefore, by relying on certain individuals, you become a zombie of that individual.
We've got one more question in the back there. Someone is going to tell me to cut this off at some point, but let's go ahead.
Great points on education, and I think, and congratulations on pursuing your postgraduate qualifications. Inspired a lot of young South Africans in townships today. I think you gave a really good account for why South Africans continue to vote for the ANC, but I want to add one more thing to that. And the reason I think a lot of South Africans continue to vote for the ANC is because the opposition politics of South Africa, including yourself, suffers from a credibility crisis. So you may say a lot of noble and nice things, but people don't trust you, and rightfully so. The examples we have is that the DA says that they care about black people and poor people, but only 9% of their parliamentary caucus are black women, where 75% of their parliamentary caucus are white men. So you can't trust a party that preaches one thing and behaves in another. Similarly, your party's done similar things. The fact that you suspended certain members while all of the Mogale city members who voted with the ANC there, that was preaching one thing when you had a secret valid vote of no confidence a few weeks before that and acting in the opposite direction. We can't trust that you believe that principle. Importantly, and this is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but you often criticize Malusi Gigaba for his expensive shoes, but you yourself are seen at rallies with Gucci loafers. You're doing exactly the thing you're criticizing. A bit of a joke, but it's important. Your party continues to exclude people based on other things, arbitrary factors like voting in a certain direction using their conscience. And I think even in your party, the representation of women in the top leadership is not as transparent or is not at a level where it's supposed to be. The fact that the most prominent members of your party is yourself, Floyd Mbuyiseni, and the advocates. What do you have to say about correcting the credibility crisis that you have caused for yourself? And how do you think South Africans will gain confidence in you? Another thing, you know, you've been embroiled in tax situations, and that can't be by accident. You have not yet apologized to South Africans for not paying taxes, because that is active theft. You're stealing from the people. Where is the apology? Are we getting it anytime soon?
Thank you. The first thing we need to get right is that there was never a secret ballot in Mogale City. There was never a secret ballot, so give yourself wrong on that one. And therefore, you cannot say you voted in a secret ballot, and therefore when people voted secret ballot, you expelled them. It's not true. It's factually incorrect. Secondly, that there was no voting in Mogale City. Right? So give yourself another wrong on that. Because the EFF with the ANC came together and then they passed the budget. And because there was no opposition to the budget, there was no need for voting. So before you stand up, especially where there are cameras, before we mislead people, we have to get our facts right. So the Mogale City chaps were told, don't go to a council in Mogale City because we want the municipality to fail to pass the budget, so that we can have a rerun in Mogale City. Why? Because the people of Mogale City are subjected to unstable government. The difference between the ANC and the opposition party was one vote. Every time they go to a council, they come with a new mayor. You cannot subject the people of Mogale City to such thing of unstable government. So we had to say to them, let's pull out and then go for a rerun and have a stable government, so that the people of Mogale City, they know that once you go to council, the council will come back intact with a program to better our lives. What do the EFF people do? They go to that council after agreeing with us and not raising an objection in the meeting. They all agreed that this is what we're going to do. So they go and pass the budget and then trust the ANC crooks with the purse. How do you leave a criminal with a purse? So, and then you say to me, that is conscience. I thought conscience has got to do with something good and correct. It can't be conscience if it's perpetuation of corruption. So we were not going to agree that such corrupt element should continue in Mogale City. So they had to be subjected to the discipline. When it comes to tax, we need to know that the SARS responsibility, Jack, I saw Jack was here earlier on. You must write in the new book. The SARS responsibility is not punitive to taxpayers. Their first task is to educate a taxpayer. I come from a very poor family. I never had that qualification of education I have now. I had very little knowledge on how those taxes are dealt with. I actually thought that my employer is responsible for my tax. When the matter was brought to my attention, it was brought today with an intention to attack me. You don't, and if that is going to be the attitude of SARS, it will collapse. It must not have an attitude of punishing people. SARS' first intervention should be compliance. Help you to comply. Not in a single day did SARS help me to comply. Black people will come from a different background. They never said to me, Julius, you have made a mistake here, let's sit here, correct here, and all that. They've never done that. They just went for me because I held a different view. One, on white monopoly capital, which Van Lochenberg, a racist of note, didn't become comfortable with. But equally, I took to SARS a dossier that Mike, the discredited Mike, brought to my office. I said to them, there is a rogue unit here. Only after I said to them, there is a rogue unit here which has been following us and doing all types of things, I became an enemy with SARS. And then they started going after me for political expediency and for racist reasons. Without helping this young person to be compliant, they should help me to comply. Failure to comply, then they must punish me. That's how you build a country. You don't just go for an attack and hope for a cooperation. Once you attack me, I'm going to react. I'm no coward. And I took them to cleaners. I took them head on and exposed their shenanigans. They gave me the first assessment. I queried it, and then they attached my properties with a hope that they will destroy me. Little did they know that I was not a product of material. I come from a very poor background. I survived difficult conditions for me to be where I am. I fought with them. They gave me a settlement which they refused to compromise till to date. They gave me the second compromise. I took them to court. When they arrived in court, I said to a judge, these people gave me a settlement today, and the following day they gave me a new assessment. The judge asked them, when you gave him the first settlement, were you not aware that there is a second assessment? Because when you give him a settlement, you are simply saying to him, oh, we have now come to agree that you cannot afford. How do you say he can't afford today, and then tomorrow he can afford? Nothing has changed in his life. They pulled my case out of court and said, no, let's go and settle. When they went out of court, they changed against me because Moyane called them to a hotel and said, you are embarrassing me. You must continue to pursue him. They pursued me. I pursued them back. Then we went to the settlement court, the SARS settlement court. The court gave me a settlement. I had a case of they wanted almost 18 million from me. We settled at 1.8 million. Me and them, I told them I don't have anything. There's nothing I can give you except the salary of parliament. These are shenanigans. They wanted to sequestrate me because they wanted to take me out of parliament for simple reason that they don't agree with me. The judge asked them, the Sequestration Act is weaker than the SARS Act. Why are you not using the SARS Act if you are not pursuing him for other reasons, if it's about tax collection? I defeated them. They didn't want me to be a member of parliament for political reasons. So why should I apologize for people who are pursuing me politically? It's wrong not to pay tax. I know that today, and I pay my taxes without fail. All of us must pay our taxes. The black younger brothers, pay your taxes. If you don't have knowledge like me, ask around. The mistake I did was not to ask around. They used tax against me. Anyone else who disagrees with these people, make sure your taxes are compliant, because they use tax to silence you. Why must I apologize for political onslaught? They attacked me, and I took them to court. Every time they were in court, they were getting out of the court. Why didn't they want to take me in an open court if I was wrong? I took them to an open court because I've got nothing to hide. I took them to an open court. They never wanted to go to an open court. When Tricky Nick Maretz, their lawyer, couldn't answer the cases in Pretoria, he came during break and said, guys, let's withdraw this thing. We're done. We accept Mr. Malema's explanation. Tricky Nick is tricking me.
Okay,
so that's it. You see, I never criticize and say Malusi must not wear expensive shoes. I say Malusi wears expensive shoes, and therefore is in no position to claim that he is not part of the corruption, because how does Malusi afford those expensive shoes with a ministerial salary? I never said he must not wear expensive shoes. Black people wear them. If you can afford them, if they're not a product of corruption, wear them. Who must wear them? They must wear them. I used Malusi's example to demonstrate that he's receiving cash, that he cannot afford to change a 45,000 suit every day. It was in that context. Get the context right, my brother.
Guys, we're going to have to cut it off there. I'm sorry, we're done. We are done. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for showing up.